In the previous episode of Beyond the Dark, we talked about the stranger who arrived in the sleepy little town of Outwick. Despite his shadowy past, he quickly settled into his new life, and it appeared he was able to turn a new leaf. But sadly, that wasn't the case. Over time, he was ostracized and vilified by the townspeople, and with his dying breath, he swore he would find a way to take his revenge. According to the legend, when the man falls into the eternal slumber, he doesn't find tranquility beyond the veil. Opening his eyes, he is faced with a nightmarish and depraved landscape of near biblical proportions. The screaming souls of the lost, pleading and begging for mercy from a God who has truly forsaken them. Now with a precipice of madness, a thick miasma of decay corrupts his every sense as a smell of fetid meat and burnt flesh eats away at him to his very core. As he is devoured by the unbroken abyss, lost in the far-reaching lands of degradation, he drops to his knees and at the feet of an amalgamation of flesh. An obelisk of 1,000 faces, each with twisted cartilage and sinew, that's now gazing upon this husk of a man. Cowering in utter terror, the man pleads with the ghoulish monstrosity in exchange for what is left of his soul. All the stranger asks for in return is revenge. Many moons have passed since the man's burial, and his grave, much like himself before his death, has been avoided and even forgotten. The village has returned to some form of normalcy after the events concerning the accident. The market once again is a hive of activity as the traders continue to bellow about their goods, the tavern is full of the local patrons enjoying the ale and festivities, and the church is full of its devout followers hanging on to every word spoken by their local chaplain. But it doesn't take long for something to catch the villagers' attention. With each passing night, the streets and thoroughfare begin to fill the miasma of fetid waste that hangs in the air like a whore's day-old perfume. Over the next few days, many residents begin to fall ill from the stench, and plague-like symptoms begin to appear upon the bodies of the affected. With great effort, the village's medicine man uses many tonics and tinctures he can in an attempt to heal the sick, but his actions are utterly fruitless. A town meeting is called at the local tavern where one of the older locals made it known that during one of his late evening strolls as the sun slept behind the hills, he passed by a hooded figure from whom he believes the foul miasma was emanating from. He goes on to explain how the bizarre spectre seemed to be disfigured by some strange ailment, his face sunken and cadaverous, with a mouth stained crimson and a very prominent hunchback causing him to lurch like a wounded animal before sneaking away into the black. As the meeting continues and they discuss ways to protect themselves from the epidemic and the potential threat of the strange spectre, suddenly the old man doubles over and falls into a coughing fit, and to the dismay of the many onlookers, he spews blood all over the tavern floor. His two sons quickly rush to his side and escort him out of the building, but it comes to their attention that he is running a severe fever. During the walk through the village, the signs of the infestation become apparent as many of the houses have been boarded up and abandoned. The once small village teeming with life seems to have been cast into a Cimmerian shade, and in a matter of days it went from a growing village with high prospects to a diseased, riddled corpse, the carrion being picked away by some predator. But what the locals haven't seemed to notice due to so many vacant properties is that some of the residents, and even the bodies of those who have perished, have seemed to have vanished without a trace. Sometime after, one of the sons rushes to call upon the priest. With people dying on a near-daily basis, the clergyman is being pushed beyond his limits. Upon entering the home of the old man, he discovers him restless and thrashing. His body is in the throes of a violent fever. He tells the two brothers that their father doesn't have long for this world and they should prepare for the worst. With great sorrow, placing a blanket upon his frail figure, the two young men watch as their father closes his eyes and with a sharp intake of breath, convulses and with a pitiful moan, perishes in the dwindling light. With a troubled brow and heavy heart, the priest performs a final rite and makes the sorrowful walk back through the village, witnessing the desolation of his parish. Upon making it to the church, he is visited by a sight of something utterly appalling. The carrion of the dead, snaking through the grass like bulbous fat worms, gorged in blood. The graves of the people, his flock, mutilated and eviscerated, a maddening depiction of violence and depravity. He feels a terror beyond any human comprehension as he now understands there is something foul preying on the residents. And not too far away, in the bowels of a crypt, that thing feeds. Stripping muscle from bone and feasting upon the putrid flesh, it greedily consumes the dead. However, its appetite for fresh meat is growing stronger. It's managed to stay hidden, clouded by the plague it brought from the depths. However, its recent feast was messy, but its hunger is insatiable. Upon seeing the sight of blood, it strips away its previous humanity and turns into a wild beast. The stranger knows what he has become, his wish fulfilled. He is something clandestinely evil, a revenant. With hammer and nails, the villagers board up their homes, arming themselves with whatever tools are available in a vague attempt to protect their children. As the long hours pass, all crowding around the slowly dimming candlelight, the sound of scratching, tearing and screaming of those risking their lives fleeing into the black thunder throughout the night. But their efforts are fruitless, for in these dark hours, the creature steps forth from its lair and eviscerates any who dare tread into its hunting ground. And if the beast is determined enough, their measly wooden doors and windows will not stop its wrath. Now not seeming to hide its presence, it attacks each night with utter incredulity, carving, maiming and killing any who cross its path, whereupon it drags them to the bowels of its lair to tear flesh from bone, and like a starving dog, it gorges itself on the remains.